Hello and welcome. This is the Astrology of the Week Ahead podcast. I'm your host, Chani Nicholas. In this episode, we are talking about the week of November 27th, and we are starting out the week with a big, huge full moon. It's in Gemini, and it is very chatty, it's very lively, it's very curious. And it's sitting in a situation that is a little daunting, I just gotta say, which means this. Astrology is like a mirror we can use, kind of like a map of time. Like, okay, what's the quality of, what's the weather like? Like, what's the vibe check? Like, what's the playlist? Now, this playlist for this Gemini full moon is probably like fun and weird and wild, like a Gemini full moon would have it. But it's also got consequences connected to it. Whatever happened last weekend, like if you're listening to this on Sunday or Monday, then it's probably whatever's happening like right now is still connected to this full moon. This is not just like a full moon in isolation. Whatever started to happen around November 22nd is connected to this. So it's really like not a full week, but a good like 5-6 days of something unfolding and coming into awareness. And because it's a full moon, and full moons tend to exaggerate whatever it is that's going on, there's a pattern of events that have been happening. And I'm, recording this in October. Like I have no idea what's happening at the end of November. I'm not making stuff up, but I'm kind of like just reading the stuff and being like, what could that mean? I don't know. Hey, but there's something that started last week that is like kind of compiling, and it might feel like that. Last week, in last week's episode, I talked a lot about things feeling like a bit of a traffic jam or like something that's congested. It's hard to get through. It might feel like there's just too much work on our plates or like there's too many things going on. And the full moon in Gemini just adds to that. There's just like a bit of a whirlwind happening. Gemini is an air sign and it's mutable. So it means that it feels like a big gust of air comes in and spreads the message far and wide. But is it the right message? Is it the right thing that's supposed to be said? Or is it something that feels like that's not correct? How did that proliferate? Like, why was that the thing that got picked up and got a million shares? I hope it's nothing like that. But I'm saying that because the ruler of this full moon is Mercury. And Mercury is in Sagittarius right now, where it's wonderful, but definitely not succinct. And at the same time as a full moon, it's making a square to Neptune, which feels like a Mercury retrograde. It feels like a moment of, what did they just say? Or like, where am I? Is this the Twilight Zone? Why is this mic not on? Like, is there any connection? Like, why do I keep getting disconnected? Or why does my message not get through? Or who told you that? Like, what are these facts? Like, why do you think that that's true? It does feel like there is some like misinformation floating through the air. It does feel like there's something that we need to watch. And so that could just be in the ethers. It might not be in our own personal life. If it feels like things are getting messy, like things were tough last week, but now they're just messy this week, then yes, that's what the astrology looks like. As always, though, this astrology might not land in your personal life. I do think we'll see that out in the world in some way, shape, or form, just like wild stories and things kind of going off the rails a little bit after a situation that has felt, again, stuck and just like challenging. The reason why I keep saying that is because we just went through a Mars-Saturn square over the weekend, and that can feel like we're in an impossible situation sometimes, and we have to like use every single avenue open to us to get through it. And so it's a little bit of a gauntlet. And this full moon in Gemini kind of just comes along and exaggerates a lot of that because it is sitting in opposition to Mars and it is also square Saturn. And this is the second full moon in a row that we've had in an opposition to Mars. The last one we had was an eclipse, and that was a different, kettle of fish because it was an eclipse. But a full moon sitting opposite of Mars is going to highlight what is divisive. It is going to have that kind of contentious energy to it. So again, we just have to watch where we're getting the info, watch what information we're putting out into the world. And for some of us, I hope perhaps it'll be like a weird, wild, good time. You never know. Like, we all react to different situations in very unique ways, depending on like what we like and what we don't. So this kind of astrology could be your preference. I don't know. It's not astrology that I would like pick for like doing something on, because that Mercury square Neptune is so messy. It's just, everything goes everywhere. It's hard to get things together. And Mars opposing the full moon feels contentious, and then it's all square Saturn, which feels like, well, this is your consequence. Time to pay the bill. Time to get your homework in. And because it's all in mutable signs, it feels a little more than it usually would, because mutable signs are always going in two different directions, or they're two different things at once. And so things tend to double up or more. They tend to multiply. And as we know, Gemini loves a situation where there's 20 different sides and 20 different opposing facts. And that's just the kind of vibe of this full moon. Okay, so that's the full moon. I wouldn't expect peace. It's not choosing peace, this full moon. But it might also give us something that is akin to whatever could be entertaining. I hope. That's my like greatest hope, is that this is like clown central and it's ridiculous, and it gives us a lot of great material to make jokes about. Goddess willing. Okay, the next thing that we need to pay attention to this week alone, that's just the full moon. That's just Monday. Then there's a whole week to get through, or to enjoy, to delight in. On Wednesday, Venus, the planet of relationship and love and connection and justice and peace, is making a conjunction with the South Node. Now, the South Node is a point where eclipses happen, where the sun and moon and the earth line up, and an eclipse. We just had eclipses. We had one in Libra. It was atrocious. Certainly not a lot of peace was had or felt. And we talked a lot about justice and what equality is and is not. And this is a continuation of that conversation, or of those dynamics. I'm not saying that what happened in October will be happening in the end of November, but I am saying that there's something that we'll circle back to, because Venus, the ruler of all of this stuff in Libra, is going to go over that eclipse point. What it might be for us personally is that this is a moment of clarity and clarification in regards to our relationships, and in regards to the ways in which we are kind of done people pleasing. This is a nice moment to say, I don't care about making other people happy. I care about being honest, and I care about doing the right thing, and I care about being on the side of what is just and what is fair. And if you don't like me because of that, okay, I like me because of that. And it's not about me getting you to like me. It's about me doing what I need to do to feel like I'm in a right relationship with myself, and perhaps anything greater than myself. So there's that piece of it. But definitely, like, if relationship dynamics need to be healed, need to be brought to conscious awareness, the middle of the week looks like it does that for us. And if the middle of the week doesn't do it for us, by the time we get to the end of the week, by the time we get to Sunday, Venus makes a square to Pluto, which is like another great deepening and letting go of relationship stuff. So I do think that this week is going to help us to unravel and maybe even like lay out, like, okay, these are the issues. What is the pattern? And, like, what could be better to know than there's a pattern, and I'm part of the pattern, therefore maybe I'm part of the problem, but also I'm part of the solution. Like, if I know that the relationship pattern keeps showing up like this, and I keep reacting to a situation in a certain way, then I could deepen my awareness of that and change my relationship to that dynamic. And then maybe change my experience. And maybe, just maybe, experience a little bit more intimacy in my life. Because ultimately, that's what Venus wants us to do. Venus wants us to be in relationship. Venus is here to remind us how deeply we need each other. And we can't exist in unions, in relationships, if there is injustice afoot. It just doesn't work. That's not a relationship. That's a abuse of power, and that's a dynamic that we don't want to be in. And anything and everything that feels like that is probably going to be more prominent right now, because there is this deep need to release and let go what gets in the way of equality and justice and connection and being able to experience love and support. So, the other thing that's happening this week is Mercury is changing signs. Mercury is moving into Capricorn on Friday, the 1st of December. How are we still already at December? And this is where it's going to station retrograde, just FYI. Mercury won't be retrograde until December 12th, but we're approaching that. So if this is a time of year where you buy gifts, I don't know, buy them early, I don't know. But if this is a time where you're like making plans and you're going to travel a lot, I would just be very conscientious of the fact that this is, the beginning of the week is not a good Mercury moment, obviously. And like Friday, Saturday are much better Mercury times, but we are in a pre-retrograde shadowy moment, meaning just double, triple check the itinerary and the cancellation clause and the return, situation. Like, can you refund it? Can you exchange it? What's the actual fine print? Pay attention to the fine print of every scenario in your life when and where you can, especially when it comes to committing to something. Because you're probably going to want to commit to a couple things this week at the end of the week. And I'm not saying it's not a good thing. I just want you to read the fine print and consider whether or not it actually works for you if you had to cancel or change a plan. Just in case the Mercury retrograde over the course of the last couple weeks of the year is less than nice and kind to us. You never know. So just have a little bit of a buffer there. All right, y'all. That is the reading for the week. Go to the Chani app and listen to your weekly reading to find out where this full moon is happening for you and how to work with it in a really kind of specific way to your chart. Thank you all so much for leaving us reviews in the App Store. I wanted to leave you with this one called Love This Astrology App. I have been using this app since it was released, and it has helped me to understand my chart better. The daily readings show me where I can focus my attention throughout my day. The weekly readings give me insight into what kind of energy is coming and what area of my life where I will feel it. The journal prompts are great for bringing clarity, and it's so helpful to look back at past entries to see how things tie together. Thank you so much for listening in. Sending you lots of love, many blessings. Next week, we will talk about Venus entering Scorpio. Bye for now.